everybody, and welcome back to the latest video on my channel. I apologize for the 2-week break. In anticipation of the game that I'm going to be talking about today coming out, I really didn't play much or do a whole lot in the media gaming world, which was intentional because I knew this was on the way. So I haven't made a video in 2 weeks, but I absolutely felt like I needed to make this video here today, which will be discussing my first impressions, roughly 4 to 5 hours or so in, of the new God of War for PS4. Before I start talking about that, I'd like to thank whoever the 10th subscriber on my channel is. I know 10 subscribers in the grand scheme of things is, relatively puny, but it's just nice to know anyone's been watching it and enjoying it enough to hit subscribe. So thank you for whoever you are, and I really appreciate you doing that. Now on to the topic at hand, which is God of War for PS4. Like I said, I've played about 5 hours or so at this point. In anticipation of this game coming out, I beat God of War 1, 2, and 3, so I'd have kind of a better baseline, a better understanding, a better background before I dove into this game, so I kind of knew where the series had come from and what the overall narrative was. And I don't want to make this video terribly long because I'm sure I'll make a review when I finally beat it, but I wanted to get my first couple thoughts out about the game since, it's a hot topic right now, and I've gotten a decent distance into it. I will say, leading up to this, that the other God of War games, 1 through 3, enjoyed them all. They're not amongst my favorite games. I felt like I understood why they're popular. I think they're really pioneered a bunch within the beat-em-up sort of action genre. But they weren't, the end-all, be-all to me. They aren't amongst my favorite games. They got me excited for this, but the bar wasn't set insanely high or anything for this to come out. So I'm going to kind of review this and just break down my thoughts real quickly in the same way I do all my reviews, which is to talk about the story, the graphics, the sound, and the gameplay. I will say there are going to be some light spoilers here. I'm not going to say, oh, this happens after this, but I'm going to mention a couple parts that I enjoyed so far in the first 4 or 5 hours. So if you don't want to know anything about, what happens in the game at all, then, be warned now and probably don't watch this video. Wow. This game has lived up to all the hype that it had and then some. It's incredibly rare for anything, movies, TV, games, these days to establish such a level of hype and such a level of praise early on, and then when you finally get your hands on them or finally get to see them, have them actually live up to that. But, I was ecstatic when I saw this game getting wonderful reviews, ecstatic when I saw a 95 Metacritic score. So I was really, really excited to play it, and like I said, so far, just absolutely floored by this game. It's basically improved on every conceivable aspect of the previous games in the series. It's taken it in a very different direction where there's a lot more depth to the narrative, a lot more depth to the combat, a lot more depth to the gameplay, a lot more potential for character growth, both in the gameplay mechanics and exploration, and just everything about the game is bigger, improved, more substantial. It's just fantastic. My expectations were really high, but there's lots of stuff in this game that I wasn't even aware was going to be in it. So it kind of took, everything to a whole nother level. But overall, I've absolutely loved it. I cannot express enough or really overstate how floored I've been by this game, meaning the game has just had so many moments even so early on that have really sort of had me in awe, which is a rare thing in gaming and a rare thing in general now. You almost feel like you've kind of seen it all at this point and almost feel like there's no real surprises left that could really shock you. But the scope of this, the technical quality of this, the craftsmanship and heart and soul that went into clearly making it have all literally just taken me aback while playing it so far, and I couldn't be more happy that it's so great. In terms of my breakdown of those 4 different aspects of the game, in my opinion thus far, the story's been fantastic. I'm really excited they've gone into Norse mythology, as everyone knows they were going to. Norse mythology is a bit more interesting to me than Greek mythology, just because it feels like it has its roots more in the same type of fantasy elements that a lot of the fantasy I enjoy, comes along with, whether it be, the more sort of rural, outdoor, remote locations in the woods and mountains and stuff, the dragons, the fantastic creatures that are part of Norse mythology. Obviously, Greek mythology has plenty of them, but in general, Norse mythology has just always intrigued me more. It's a setting, it's a pantheon. It just has a bunch of elements that are more interesting to me in general. So I've really enjoyed the story so far. I really want to see where it goes. I don't feel like I have a good read on how I think it's going to end. I'm anxious to see how they're going to play it out. But seeing Kratos as a much more subdued, much more, sorrowful and reserved character is really interesting. Atreus is fantastic in the game so far. His son, that's, a character that accompanies you. Their relationship's really interesting. The voice acting's great. It's just awesome. The original game, one of my biggest critiques was that the story was really nothing more than a way to introduce you to the next fight sequence. Kratos was a relatively unlikable character, I think, by design, and kind of a cookie-cutter action hero character. But in this, there's really a lot of weight to what he's going through, in dealing with his wife's death, dealing with his son, who he's seen very little of. And of course, I don't even know the full extent of how the story plays out or what the true, maybe, motives for the characters are or the way it all unfolds. But thus far, like I said, Atreus and Kratos setting off on this epic adventure, navigating through these Norse mythological elements, seeing Kratos a lot different, a lot, having matured in a lot of ways from the original games, all just great, along the lines of what I was hoping to really see. So excited to see where that goes. The graphics are fantastic, amongst the best I've seen in any game, certainly any console game. But it's not just the graphics. I mean, the technical quality of the graphics is great, but it's also the visual style and overall aesthetic of the game. Even the most technically impressive graphics mean relatively little if the world's just sort of boring in its design. But this world is so vibrant, it's so colorful, it's so incredible. Like I said, you enter new areas, you enter different realms within, the Norse universe. I don't even know what the proper term is, but you enter these different realms that are very different in design and look, and every one, it's like, I'm so excited to see, because I know it's going to be a complete change of pace from the others. I know it's going to have its own look. The lighting, the scope of the creatures and the landscapes is just fantastic, just takes your breath away. The animations of the combat, awesome. I mean, God of War's always been known for really impressive combat when it comes to the visuals, and this, between just basic combat visuals and then the finishers, are spectacular. It's so visceral. I mean, some of this stuff really makes you wince at just how bloody and brutal it is, but that's a huge compliment because it's supposed to be. You grab people by the throat and smash their head off, or throw like a harpoon or spear through their body, and you really, the up close, right over the shoulder, third person perspective on this really brings you right up into the action, and it's just so intense. It's so well animated, so crisp. Just fantastic visuals. I love the technical quality is fantastic, but the design, the way they are, brought this world to life, the characters, the way they look, the way the equipment looks on them, how you can customize the equipment, which changes its appearance. Just fantastic all around. Just a real landmark game in that regard, I think. The sound and music, the voice acting has been great. It's an improvement on previous games. It's not quite as hokey. It's goofy at times. The dwarves, who are sort of, serve as like merchants and blacksmiths for you, talk in a style that's not very believably, ancient. There's a lot of like modern day slang and like euphemisms used, and it is goofy. It doesn't take itself overly seriously in certain regards, but Kratos and Atreus, well voice acted, a lot of passion and drama brought to their performances. The music done by Bear McCreary, who I know from like The Walking Dead, pretty big name composer. Really good so far. The overall, I think, considered Kratos theme is really epic, suitably composed for the scale of a game like this. It really got me excited from the second I booted up the game on the God of War theme and heard that music. It really set the tone for the game. Not a whole lot of the other music has stood out to me so far, but on the whole, it's been good. There's not a whole lot of tracks this early on in the process that stand out as my favorite, but on the whole, very good. And then gameplay, just awesome. I mean, this game has taken the best things about the old God of Wars, but introduced so many new mechanics and improvements from other games that it feels like the absolute best of both worlds. The combat is a lot more involved, in my opinion. You know, you have the mechanics of you're using an axe now instead of Kratos' chains, so you can throw the axe, you can melee with your fists while the axe is out of your hands. You can, you know, you get a bunch of different combos. You have a shield that's attached to your arm. You have a whole skill tree now for both your character and your son Atreus, which allow you to learn new combos, learn passive abilities, learn new stuff for Atreus, insofar as how he works with Kratos, so you can like combo people and use teamwork. The weapons allow a lot of customization from weapons and armor allow a lot of customization. Everything from customizing the axe's hilt, which changes its properties, to adding runes to the axe, which allow you different, you know, attacks, special attacks with the weaponry. The armor has stats, so you can choose to go, you know, more defense heavy, more magic heavy, more attack power heavy. You know, a glass cannon, I think they call it. You know, it has all that customization and all that, you know, all that potential within those mechanics. Then the game itself really encourages exploration. The areas I've been to so far are really big. There's side quests. There's like little goals called labors, which is, you know, kill XYZ number of this enemy, kill a certain amount of this enemy, discover this many shrines. You know, it offers so much to do, which I love because it doesn't feel overwhelming, but it feels like there's a lot of meat there that isn't just fight boss, fight through gauntlet of enemies, fight boss, fight, and then, you know, the game ends. It feels like there's stuff to do that lets you kind of stop and smell the roses and see more of the game world. And like I said, I'm enjoying the game so much, and it's so fantastic so far that I'm trying to do every little bit of side content that I can because it's just that much fun. But with all that customization, they kept the core awesomeness of the God of War combat. You know, combat feels just as rewarding. Combat's so visceral. It looks great. It's challenging. The situations they put you in between the boss fights, you know, light spoiler, but I just fought the boss in what's called Alfheim, one of the realms within Norse mythology where you fight this like dark elf boss, and fight was just fantastic. It's fought in partial light and partial darkness, so during certain portions of the battle you're in like pitch black, so you have to sense where he's coming from, and it has all the awesomeness of those big budget action sequences that God of War has always been known for, with a little bit less focus on quick time events, which is fine by me. But it feels, like I said, visceral. It feels intense. It feels fast paced. It feels in your face. It feels bone crunching. It feels bloody. It feels gory. You know, it hasn't lost any of that. It probably has even more of that than the previous games. But along with that has come more depth of the gameplay mechanics, more depth of the story, a way bigger world, way more side content. So you really got what you like if you like God of War. You got Kratos, who's as strong and beastly and awesome as ever, except he's got a lot more nuance to him, and the combat and the game as a whole has a lot more nuance to it. So if I haven't already sold you on it, you know, unless this game absolutely nosedives and just plummets in quality, so far it's, you know, it's on pace to be one of the most impressive games, you know, I can recall. You know, I'd say in recent memory, but, you know, honestly, just one of the more impressive starts to a game I can recall. So I'm incredibly excited to see what else it has in store. Right now, it's a borderline A+ game for me, and I'm hoping it kind of remains that way throughout. But if you own a PS4, you've played previous God of Wars, you like action games, or you like, you know, just games that kind of personify and not personify, but exemplify, I should say, what makes gaming great, in my opinion, I mean, God of War is a no-brainer. It got fantastic reviews for a reason, and I'm just loving it so far. So pick it up, guys. I'm going to go play some of it right now. When I beat it, I'll probably post a longer review, but this is just because I was really excited to talk about it. I've loved it so far. And Santa Monica Studios, 2 big thumbs up for making a game that keeps the heart and soul of God of War while making so many significant and awesome improvements. Thanks for watching this, guys. I'll probably get back to making videos more regularly, and appreciate the new subscribers. Take care.